there might be more land, and
Exactly.
if it's a while ago, the Atlantic might have been smaller. So
yeah.
And then I think I did send you that vortex map. It's just like kind of like a grid system on the Earth, and the Bermuda Triangle is one of the vertices of
Wait, you sent it to
like
me?
around the equator.
Wait, when did you send it to me?
I think it was like an Instagram message, and then you said you might have seen it in a dream. But it's like this kind of vertice grid system on the Earth, and to me, especially around the equator, it kind of represents like local energy centers,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I mean,
one of them is the Bermuda Triangle.
for sure. There's definitely different energies. So yeah, I know exactly. Now it's coming back to my memory. I know exactly what you're talking about. There's definitely various energy centers. They say even that, certain churches and like certain big temples and things like that are
Yeah,
placed along certain ley lines for that reason, because of the energy that's contained within those spaces.
yeah. Because
So
I think it breaks down even further. Those are just the largest ones. Like there's one over India, the subcontinent, but yeah, it probably breaks down into smaller portal sites.
yeah.
Um,
I don't know if you ever read this book. It's by the same guy who wrote The Flower of Life, Secret of the Flower of Life, but it's called The Serpent of Light. Is that what it's called? But I think that's what it's called. It's called The Serpent of Light, if I'm not mistaken. But it's basically like the title is like The Serpent of Light, Rise of the Divine Feminine Energy, or something like that. But basically, in that book, he details how, and I have that book in my room. I just can't recall the exact title. But he details how the Earth's, like he's talking about like the Earth's Kundalini, basically, and how the Earth's Kundalini like moves during certain ages in time. Like it'll move around the earth and be like more concentrated in certain areas, and like in those areas you'll see like the great teachers of history, like like the great sages and things like that. They'll come from those areas, and that's how like where the Earth's Kundalini was concentrated at a certain point in time. I'm like, I'm just being very general about what he says. He obviously goes into a lot more detail about it, but it just made me think of that when you brought that up. So, yeah.
cool.
Somebody from the group just, I don't know if she's going to join. She's one of the 3 Virgos. It's 3 Virgos and 2 Geminis, which I think is cool because actually one of the people, hi Alexa, I was just talking about her. Can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Welcome. So yeah, we're just we haven't started the actual conference on the course, but we're just talking about random stuff. And I was just saying how it's funny that is 3 Virgos and 2 Geminis, because actually one of the people who's a Virgo in the course, her and I have been talking a few weeks ago, and we were talking about how like Vedic astrology, and in Vedic astrology, my karma path is Gemini and my dharma path is Virgo. So it's funny because you are all Virgo and Gemini. So I guess I'm confronting my karma and my dharma right now. But yeah.
I saw someone else's name. Is someone else's name Alexandria?
Yes, and she's a Virgo.
Oh, that's crazy. I was like, what?
I was thinking the same thing. Yep.
Oh, wow.
You guys are all September Virgos. So,
nice.
Yeah, it's cool. And then the Geminis are both June Geminis as well. So
Yeah.
that's fun.
I was actually listening to a reading today too, like on YouTube, and it was saying that Virgos are dealing with a lot of or encountering a lot of Gemini energy, which was interesting. Like that's the type of energy that they're having to with when it comes to, I guess, willpower and love life and things like that. I guess with Uranus and Pluto, whatever's going on there, there's also some Gemini type of energy that's Virgos are being faced with to deal with that and Uranus Pluto thing or something like that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are both associated with Mercury as well, so
Right.
that's
Yeah, aren't we both mutable? Like as far as the like cardinal,
yeah.
or yeah.
Yeah, both mutable, both associated with Mercury. Yeah, Geminis and Virgos have a lot to do with each other for sure. And also, when you conceive during Virgo season, you usually have a Gemini. If I'm not, am I thinking? Wait, yeah, when you conceive during Virgo season, you either have, is it a Gemini or a Pisces?
I think it's Pisces. Pisces is our opposite.
No. When you conceive during Virgo season, yeah, Pisces is the Virgo opposite. But with the signs also, there's this pattern of like all the mutable signs. When you conceive in one of the mutable signs, you're going to give birth in one of the mutable signs. Like all the fixed signs, all the cardinal signs. Like my brother, for instance, he's a Scorpio. Scorpio's fixed. He was conceived during Aquarius season. You know, Aquariuses are usually conceived during what fixed season is that? Is it Leo? No, it's Taurus season. Aquariuses are conceived during Taurus season, which is another fixed sign, generally speaking. But yeah, so yeah, I think when you conceive during Virgo season, you give birth Gemini season for the most part. You know, unless you have like premature birth or things like that. But yeah, so
I did hear that I was born early, like 2 weeks, but
you were born 2 weeks early.
well, from their estimates, but
Yeah. Yeah, my daughter was born supposedly 9 days late, but I think she came when she was supposed to come. So
yeah, that's your son. My son was actually supposed to be a Virgo. I was so excited. He was gonna be born on September 4th, which is Beyonce's birthday, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" And then he came early.
That's crazy. That's crazy because my daughter was supposed to be an Aquarius according to their calendar, but she ended up being a Pisces. Yeah, she was like, "Nope, I'm not doing the Aquarius thing. Y'all are crazy." But that's what's up. So this is the perfect segue into this conversation, which is really introductory. We're really just going to be talking about, you guys received my email with the syllabus and the introductory reading as well, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I did. I haven't actually gone through it. I saw it because I just got out of another meeting, but I saw that you sent it, so I did receive it.
Okay, cool. As long as you got it, that's fine. And then Moodle, everybody should have access to the Moodle. There's some things I haven't yet uploaded because I was trying to stay away from the computer today to balance my energy again. But now after this call, I'll be uploading the rest of the stuff. But Moodle platform is open already, so you should have access to the Moodle site. The reading and the syllabus are uploaded, and then there's also a detox meditation because this week we're going to be doing detox. If you decide to participate in the detox, it's really just to clear our energy centers, this work that we're about to do. I was initially going to send the detox 2 weeks prior to starting the course, but I decided to do it so we could all do it together. I decided to do it the first week of the course, just do a detox together. And then after our detox, first week is just going to be like detox and reflections. And then we start with Saturn next week. And that's when we really get into the knowledge. We'll start off interpreting our personal natal charts and doing that work, reading the afflictions and what that means for the balancing that needs to happen. So that is how we're going to start off. We're going to start off with detox and reflection this week. Then next week is when we'll be clear enough to be receiving this information. So we'll start with that. So before I even start, we're going to do like some icebreakers. I was hoping more people would join so we can do a fun, big group icebreaker, but it's fine. We'll do icebreakers during the next calls as well, just to get to know everybody else. But I want to know a little bit about how you, I think I already know for some of you, but how did you find out about this course and what interested you in it? So somebody wants to share, feel free to do so.
Well, for me personally, I am interested in, I've always had an interest in astrology. Even before I was interested in herbology. So under the inkling of thinking that they are, this course very much intrigued me because I was interested in making medicine in that way, very in tune with the astrological aspects. And of course, I am in another course of that you have, so obviously I found out that way. But yeah.
Word. Thank you for sharing. My bad. I had to switch rooms because my connection is unstable right now. But thank you for sharing.
Because I mean, and I don't know, I would assume so. Like my initial thought before even getting into herbology was that people could, or medicine could be made specifically for people based on their natal charts and how those herbs correlated to those specific planets and things that are influencing them individually.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of like the thought that kind of spawned everything for my personal journey into this. So I'm assuming, in knowing what I know now, that that is possible.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Drew? Your video is frozen. Alexa, can you still hear me? Hello?
But as far as the alchemy side of it, I was really interested on the, I guess, personality of atoms and like how electrons communicate informations between atoms. And that kind of brought me from like academic science into, I guess, these more arcane ways of knowing, and then independent research online. I also, I would listen to people like Terence McKenna, I guess, and I just kept learning more and downloading various like PDFs and information I found online. Some that were really helpful were ones dealing with sound and how it can create structure, especially as like a catalyst for life, because a lot of times the energy mechanics don't always make sense. And if you include the energy of sound and then the way that it can structure things, it really brings down the energy necessary to create these different forms like cells. And I found out about this class on Instagram. I had spent some time in Chicago, and I guess met some people that you guys are associated with, and I really like the pictures of the plants. As a person that's trying to become a vegan, and then I was interested in like how these plants, based off of what learning about the way sound is, I was kind of interested how these plants make the compounds within them, and so I guess I had really gotten into uh, images of food and plants where it's not processed, but it's like kind of like what's the simplest way that you can eat this food, the smartest way. And then I had read some manga too that had described the plants choosing you. The plants, they choose who they want to feed, essentially. So it made sense. I yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Yes, that's all relative to the things that we will be, touching upon in this course for sure. That's one big thing in I think just about all the classes that I teach. I make a point of making sure people know that the plants aren't just passive entities, that they are, they have agency. The earth in general has agency. So it's more about relationality in that sense. So the relationship with plants goes both ways. They decide to relate to us in the same as much as we decide that we want to start to work with them. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. My video, I don't know if you guys noticed, but my video went out for a bit, and I was just like freaking out because it happened during the opening call for another one of my classes too. So I was like, I hope this is not happening again, because I wasn't able to log back in after that happened during the other class. But I'm good now. I just came inside to see if it has something to do with the Wi-Fi. But yeah, so we're gonna do 2 icebreakers. The first one is, where were you? Where were you is basically me just asking, like, where were you during certain events? Usually it'll be like historical, but I'm gonna focus more on astrological events. So the first one is, where were you on the solar eclipse of August 21st last year?
I was in Lansing, but I was living at a different spot, because I've only lived here like almost 2 years in May, and I've already lived 5 places. So I was over on the west side near downtown, and it's the capital here. So like the place called the Hall of Justice, where the Attorney General and all that stuff goes down, is like right across the street. And then the place I was living, it's actually like Martin Luther King Drive, and then this side of the city that had kind of been turned into a ghetto. But it had a backyard with a walnut tree and a side yard. I don't know if I was probably working too that day. But I think I definitely got outside to at least to sit, because that was during the day where the eclipse was like on the other side of the world, or was that the more recent one? No, that was the recent one. Sorry. Yeah.
Hello? No. Oh, it just came back
Um,
in. Your voice.
yeah, that's it.
Word. Thank you for sharing.
I was at home. I was actually having conflicted feelings, I guess, about it because, some people in the quote unquote spiritual community, I guess, they're very opinionated as far as like watching it or not watching it. So I had, I think, come across some information where it was saying like the natives, I believe, or something like they didn't look directly at it. If I'm thinking about the right eclipse, but they were saying that they didn't look directly at it because of some sort of type of energy, whatever. But that day I was at home and I was just doing, setting some intentions, working with candles, things like that. But yeah, I was at home with my family. They didn't have school. I think like school was out that day or something like that. I live in Kissimmee, so they didn't have school. My son didn't have school, so he stayed home. I had got some goggles and stuff, but I think I peeked at it for like a second, but I stayed indoors for the most part over again. But yeah, that's where I was at.
Word. Yeah. Um,
Can I add something?
yeah, go ahead.
Um, I had heard that it was good to fast or set yourself up to be more empty during an eclipse, like both lunar and solar, because apparently some of the energetics, like Alexa was saying, like to look at it or not look at it, sometimes you can feel it, but some of the energetics are like it's like speeding up time a little bit, like it'll trick your body into thinking like a full day has passed, or like when the moon is eclipsed, it'll kind of trick your body into thinking like a whole month has passed. Um, so it was it was a like a spiritual leader in India was saying to be to fast during eclipses.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that too about fasting during eclipses. Um, but in terms of the time thing, it's interesting because I guess it's also a matter of how you approach that because you can if you were to like have a quantum situation like that where based on the energetics of a celestial body, you are quote unquote tricked into thinking that you're in the future somehow, then what you could do is just get answers from the future and bring that back to where you are. At least that's what I would do with that knowledge, is try to go into some kind of meditative state. And I think fasting is conducive to that, which is part of the reason we're doing a detox is for that reason, because what I found on my personal journey is that having a clearer template just logically enables you to access more and be just generally more receptive to the truth by way of just clarifying your temple from things that really serve as filters for you receiving information. Because part of what we're going to be studying is certainly Kabbalah or Kabbalistic knowledge. This is not a class on Kabbalah, but we will be learning like the basics of Kabbalah and things like that. And the meaning of, well, the origin of Kabbalah comes from this word kibble, which is also known as like a cable in a way, but it's really to receive some kind of transmission. Because Kabbalah is an oral tradition that has been passed down. The origins are very obscure, but if you're a logical person, you can see how it originated. It originated in tandem with alchemical knowledge. Once you start to study more about those things, you see how they originated. Almost, it could be said that they originated around the same time. So that's certainly something that we'll be studying. But yeah, to receive that knowledge, we have to have a kind of clear template. So that's interesting. I was on that day, I was actually outside. And it's interesting, Alexa, you said that, because I was thinking about, do I even want to go out? I was thinking the same kind of thoughts. Like, do I even want to go outside? Because apparently that's dangerous. Um, so I went, and there was like some happenings in Orlando at this little cafe called Dandelion. They had like a kind of market, and I went to the market, and then I met this I forgot what tribe he's from, but he's from a native tribe, and he was just sharing so much deep knowledge. It was mind blowing. Like, just he would say stuff that was just so simple, but because of the simplicity, it resonated as, you know, a truth that basically would stand the test of time. So I realized that I needed to be out so I could have this encounter with this man that I had never encountered before. But yeah, he like makes all these jewelries out of stones, and he had this incense blend that was actually like pieces, like things he had gathered from the earth, and he just ground those up, and he'd been burning that like from the forest, like just different things like leaves. It wasn't anything specific, but he had gathered different things, and he just kept reburning the same thing over and over. And I thought that was interesting too, because they had a crazy strong aroma. But that's where I was during the eclipse of August 21st. And then I also started, that same day, I had also started the first run of Campo Medicine, which in retrospect, I realized that I won't start another course on an eclipse day. But it served as a lesson for sure. So, yeah.
I released a song on that day too, actually.
What was that?
I said I'm now remembering too. I don't know how I forgot, but I had recorded a song. It was like the first song I put like out officially, and I had released it on that day. I
Well,
completely forgot about that, but yeah, that was a very significant day.
yeah. Yeah, you also started the course with me that day
When I
too.
started, yeah, there was a lot of things happening that day.
Yeah. Oh, that's what's up. Word. Well, so the next one is, where were you on your 24th birthday, or your like, what significant event happened on your, like anything significant that you can recall from your 24th year? And the reason I'm asking that is because every 12 years we have a Jupiter return. So on your 12th birthday, or on your 12th year, you have a Jupiter return. During your 24th year, you have a Jupiter return. So do you remember what was happening during your 24th year that may have been significant to your path in accordance to Jupiter as a planetary influence? Or maybe you don't know that it's relevant to Jupiter, but through this course, you may discover that that year was influenced by the Jupiter return that you were experiencing. Because I realized that later on for sure. Like my 24th year, I met two people who were extremely catalytic to my life. Just by relating to them intimately, it's like my life changed drastically after that. That's really when I got deeply on my path with the plants. I had already been dealing with the plants, but that year was like, I met also this Black girl in Ohm. You may have heard of them, but that's when they had first started their work. And that's when I met them. And the way I even because I used to always make like herbal blends and things like that for like myself. And then one day there's the first Instagram I had when I first made Instagram was that year. And then I deleted it. But before I deleted it, I had posted a picture of like a tea that I made, and then, or an infusion rather. The word tea is like not even the right word to use for those beverages that we call teas. but an infusion that I made, and the girl who runs Black Girl and Own, Lauren, she was following me for some reason, and she commented, and then she was like, "Do you make herbal blends?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then she's like, "I would love for you to bring your blends to my yoga events and like sell your blends and like probably do some samples for people." And that put me on my path. Like that was that year where I was not expecting to like put myself out there with my plant medicine work, because I was still like getting to know the plants really. But then it was like the universe was like, no, this is what you're gonna do. You got to get ready now, because we're not gonna wait for you to get ready. So it forced me into expansion, which is what all Jupiter is all about. But yeah, so where were you guys during your 24th years?
So I think I also started my Instagram that year, and I had graduated in 2012 that summer, and then in 2013 was when I had moved to Chicago, and that was a really interesting experience. Because I was trying to do several different projects, because I had I just worked on a documentary dealing with I guess the migrations of Islam, and an identity of like, and how this country treats people in reality. So I was going to do a kind of documentary on starting a water company, and I ended up getting pulled into other aspects of it, and just really seeing like all different sides of Chicago. Because I also like people kind of stay in their own neighborhoods a little bit. So when we had the opportunity to kind of go to like, you know, north parts of West Side, and in the South and East Side, yeah, I think it was a really interesting experience. I was living in South Loop at the time, which probably, from what I was gathering, had a rough time in the 80s, but it was still a huge music center. I was actually living right up by Chinatown in the Pilsen district. So I did do some video work with that, and probably a lot of personal growth. But it did not work out for various reasons, which might be too extensive. So I ended up finding myself coming back to Michigan in 2014.
That's crazy, because that means we were in Chicago at the same time, but we didn't meet.
Yeah, if I'm gonna name drop, I met Alia.
Aaliyah, yeah.
Leah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's so crazy how people like circle around each other for a while, and then like if you're meant to connect with somebody, you do somehow, some way. Because somebody who I'm collaborating with now here in Orlando, she lived in Chicago too, and we didn't meet in Chicago. We met here in Orlando. Like, so it's just crazy that how things happen like that all the time, you know. You'll be in the same area as somebody, but it's not the time yet for you and that person to, I guess, make the connection that at some point was promised to be made. So that's what's up, though. That's what's up.
I think it's sometimes it's a matter of orientation as well, like just in different directions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, because I was, what was that?
No, I was saying I had read this story once of this couple. They were older, of course. This couple that got married, and in at some point in their marriage, they were going through like childhood photos that they had, and they both had a picture. They were from Asia somewhere, but they were at like a place like a historical monument or something like that, and they both were taking a picture at the same exact time, and you can see the other person. So like the husband, the mom or something taking the picture, the girl was in the background taking a picture on the opposite side, and she had the same picture from the opposite perspective of
That
someone
is
taking a
crazy.
picture of her, and he was in the background taking the picture. They ended up getting married and then going through their photos and finding this.
That is bizarre. That's amazing
I
though.
was like, that is, and they were young. They were like, teenagers or something, and then didn't meet, of course, until years and years later.
Wow.
Like, that is fate right there.
That's seriously, that's astrology. Like, that's so crazy. That's so dope, though. I always think it's dope when stuff like
Yes.
that happens. Cause weird.
But you said 24, right?
Yeah, your 24th year.
24, if I'm not mistaken, that was like 2013. I was actually just getting onto my spiritual path in general. I was like going through this weird, which now I kind of I understand it, but I started experiencing shortly, I think in 2012, I started experiencing what I came to know as like synchronistic, like seeing repeat numbers, but I was seeing my birth date over and over and over. And it was freaking me out. Like I thought I was gonna die actually. I was like, what does this mean? So I got it freaked out and I started getting into like spirituality or actually getting more into Christianity because I was never really deep into Christianity. But I started getting more into religion, and through that, and just connecting with some friends and things like that, I, started coming across more, I guess what would be considered alternative or like, my spiritual path now as far as like meditation and things like that. So on my 24th year was kind of just the intro into that for me, like beginning to meditate, beginning to um, kind of like the initial mentality, I think, when people kind of start on that journey is of like just thinking of things from different perspectives, like, oh well, I guess that was meant to happen because of just trying to change my perspective as far as things like that. I also had moved out on my own for the first time. I had moved in with a best friend, so it was like my first time kind of having like real independence and kind of like discovering myself in that aspect. So yeah, it was the beginning for me, essentially.
That is definitely stuff that happens during the Jupiter return. It's like, because Jupiter is all about expansion, it's about philosophies and the things that we believe in, our spiritual and religious inclinations and things like that. So that's definitely part of the Jupiter return energies. Really anything that forces us to expand our minds and just our reality in general, expand our perspective of reality. Um, so it's all relevant. Um, but yeah, so that's the last icebreaker. We'll do it at the end. Um, that was the first one. So now we're just gonna go into logistics of discussing the syllabus. And you both know how to navigate Moodle because you've both taken other classes with me. So I won't go too much into that today unless you have any questions about it. But I'm gonna share the screen for those of you who can see it, and talk a little bit about the syllabus here. Can you all see the screen that I'm sharing?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So, so basically, this is the syllabus. So, at the top, it's just information about me, how to contact me, WhatsApp. You all are on WhatsApp already. The course objective and description. Now, the required texts, both of these are required. We'll be reading these throughout the course. We'll be reading parts of the book of alchemy. You also got another text on alchemy via email, the PDF that I sent, and it's also up on Moodle. I'll also be posting another reference book as well on Moodle. And then you have astrology, nutrition, and health. So these, according to the syllabus, we won't start reading these till next week. But don't get too caught up on not having it by next week if you feel like you won't be able to don't get too caught up about having it next week if you feel like you won't be able to get it by next week. Because what I'll be doing is, so each week you'll receive 2 videos from me, which is basically one video is theory and the other video is practice. So that's how I have it laid out. One is theory, in which I'm just explaining whatever theory I'm presenting, usually about the planets, the plants in relation to the planets, the metals associated with the planets, and then the astrological components of those planetary influences. And then we go into a practice. That's usually going to be like some kind of concoction or something else in relation to what I just explained in the video on theory. So it'll be 2 videos per week. And in those videos, I will usually be highlighting like the major aspects of each of these books that we'll be touching upon during the course of the course. So that's that. Those are the 2. And then everything else, there'll be some charts and other assigned readings, which will be provided. More informational reading, like how to do certain things, how to make certain concoctions to supplement the videos in which you're being instructed upon that already. So that's that. Other materials, so a journal is required because you'll be doing materia medica, which is basically creating a journal entry for each of the 14 plants. We're going to focus on 14. I was going to do 21, but I'm realizing that's not a good idea, primarily because already in, for instance, one of my courses, I'm doing 1 plant per week, and I'm noticing how 1 week is still not enough to go in depth with a single plant. So I don't want to overwhelm anybody too much. So 2 plants a week. Your journal is going to be for those plants and any other thing that you want to put in it, like the prompts. There'll be weekly independent study prompts, and you can journal about your findings in this same space, or you can have another journal for it. WhatsApp you have, Moodle you have. Herbs are listed throughout the syllabus, at least 1 ounce of each. We're not going to really, dandelion and nettle we'll need this week because that's part of our detox. So dandelion and nettle are going to be our detox allies. So those you'll need this week, and then the other ones you won't need till starting next week. And then the other materials that are required are basically things that you'll be using to make the 3 concoctions, because you have 3 concoctions that you'll be creating throughout this course. And those are the materials that you'll need for them for the most part. There'll be other things that you'll need, but that'll be stuff you probably already have around, or things that you can easily acquire. And then this is a general outline of how things are laid out. So as I said, 2 videos a week. There'll also be supplemental videos that you can decide to watch if you want to, just to kind of reinforce whatever information I'm already sharing. There's going to be weekly herbal communions with the herbs that we're focusing on that week. So it'll be just different ways to work with the same plant to see what you can, receive from the plant, and at the same time give to the plant. The journaling, the worksheets, which usually will be in alignment with the videos that are shared, the WhatsApp discussions, independent study as mentioned, and then 5 conference calls, and then 1 case study, which will basically be, collectively studying a specific natal chart. And then each of you will have to address, that'll be later on in the journey, Each of you will have to address a certain affliction that is present. You all won't be addressing the same affliction in the chart. You'll receive a certain affliction to address. So it'll be later on once you have more knowledge on how to address these afflictions. But that's part of another major assignment that'll be part of this journey. And then you have a course outline, which basically is just a general overview of the things that we will be covering on a weekly basis. Obviously on Moodle, you'll have more details on and more clarity on what each of these things are, but it's just an overview of the things that we will be focusing on that week. And then Alexa, is somebody saying something?
No, I didn't.
Okay, I thought I heard a voice come in. So yeah, then the weekly readings are listed, so you already know what you'll be reading. You can decide to read ahead if you want to. It's really up to you, but we will definitely be reading the entire astrology, health, and nutrition book, and then the book of alchemy will only read parts of that. And yeah, so that is the general, and then after that, you'll just see information on how to communicate throughout the course, the point value of each of the assignments and components that factor into the grading of the course, and expectations, along with a list of suppliers if you purchase herbs online. This is a list of reliable suppliers. And then I always recommend supporting local herb shops if you have any near you. That's my first advice. But yeah, any questions about that? Any questions about the structure or anything else that I just mentioned in regards to that?
At least for the first week, I've noticed there's a lot of dandelion and like stinging nettle around here. Is that something where I'd have to have it dried first before I use it, or could I use like wild herbs where I can find them?
So you're asking if you would have to dry them. You don't have to dry them to prepare an infusion, because we'll be doing infusions this week.
Okay.
You don't have to dry them to prepare an infusion. You can make fresh herb infusions, and there'll also be a document on preparing infusions uploaded to Moodle as well. So you'll have clarity about that. Now, a note on stinging nettle is called stinging nettle for a reason. It does sting. So when harvesting stinging nettles, you need specific gloves to harvest that. So be very mindful of that when harvesting, because you can potentially get stung, and those stings itch and burn and all of the above. So
Yeah.
So that's the only thing. But dandelion, you can really find it anywhere. And this is the season where they're mostly abundant, is during the spring season. So yeah. Any other questions about that? Or anything else on the syllabus? No? All right. Well, that's that. And then, as mentioned, Moodle, you guys are clear on how to navigate that. Let me know if you can access the actual course content, or at least access to some content, not all, but at least the course portal. Let me know if you have access to that, to make sure. I think I enrolled everybody in the course, if I'm not mistaken. But if for some reason I didn't enroll you, just shoot me a text and let me know, and I'll enroll you real quick. So that is that. Now, so I sent I know that you guys haven't read anything, or haven't read through the entire text that I sent, the Science of Enlightenment, Alchemy, the Science of Enlightenment. But today, so we're gonna take just a moment. That'll be the last thing before our icebreaker. We're just gonna take a moment to do a KWL on alchemy, astrology, and Kabbalah. So with this, take about 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, and just I don't know if you've ever made a KWL chart. I'll share a screen on a KWL chart sample, just in case. So basically, a KWL chart, it just details what do you know, what do you want to know, and what have you learned. And the have you learned part is usually something you fill out at the end of the course to kind of gauge whether you've gained that knowledge of what you wanted to learn. Let me see. So, hold on a second. I'm trying to share the screen. Okay. So KWL chart, this is how KWL chart looks. So topic, we got 3 topics. So you can list the topics on the side. You can write Kabbalah, astrology, and alchemy, and then make 3 columns. 1, what do you know? What do you want to know? And what have you learned? And again, the what have you learned, that'll stay empty until either throughout the course or at the end of the course. So take some time to actually create this chart and fill that in with information on what you know about Kabbalah, what you know about astrology, and what you know about alchemy. And then we'll come together and talk about that a little bit.
Now you said Kabbalah, astrology, and what was the last one?
Alchemy.
Yeah, alchemy, Kabbalah, astrology, and alchemy. Yeah. So take about 5 more minutes or so, and then we'll reconvene and discuss. Do you need a few more minutes, or are you ready?
Should be good.
Good.
You guys say you're ready?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, what do you know? What do you want to know? And what have you? Oh, what do you know? What do you want to know?
For me, I don't really know much about Kabbalah except that it encompasses ancient teachings. Basically, I don't know anything about Kabbalah. Astrology, I know, of course, that it has to do with the planets, the stars, that everyone has a natal chart and ruling energies the planets all have are associated with various types of energies. And it was just like an ancient, or not even, I mean, it's just a way that our ancestors, they just kind of read the stars and knew that type of knowledge and information. And then as far as alchemy, I know that in general, alchemy has to do with balancing, aligning, creation, bringing different properties together to create various results. What I want to know about Kabbalah, as much as possible, being that I don't know, I don't know too much about it at all. As far as astrology, I want to know how to read my chart better, understanding the planetary energies as well better, as far as like what's associated to them and the things that they rule, and the plants that align with those energies. And then as far as alchemy, I want to know more about how to work with the various energies to create specific results, basically.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, and you will learn all of that in this course. Hopefully, if my teachings go through well, which I think they will. Word.
I do keep hearing like a buzzing sound.
Me too. I was wondering what that was. I thought it was one of you. It's not coming from my end.
It might be my phone right now. There's a group message going crazy. So let me see if I can turn it off.
Oh yeah, because that's loud and clear over here.
Okay, it shouldn't come through now, I don't think.
Okay, so what I know about astrology. So there's definitely like day and night aspects to, I guess, society even. And a lot of that has to do with, I guess, my understanding of light being an information carrier, as well as, it being the difference between like cold and warm, like these cycles and stuff. So and originally, like I was able to get myself to, think that this could be true, even if there's a lot of, I guess, fake or fraudulent practices of like using it without knowing. But mostly because, like as the seasons change, you'll have again different temperature exposure, and then even different things going on in society, whatever your culture is doing, and you're definitely exposed to that even in the womb. So then, and then at the time of conception, or whenever, I guess, a spirit or soul enters the body, there's probably an orientation of the stars at that time that is unique. Like I've always found it frustrating that a lot of the science that is in the news and taught is more about repeating patterns, not really understanding that there's some things that only happen once, you know, at least within, your lifetime. Um, so that also made me wonder if you're born in a different hemisphere, um, is it the same, I guess, is it the same star alignment? Um, and if that has any effect. So that would be on what I want to know. One of the things. But yeah, light. You can receive downloads, basically, and light is present as to the degree of intensity, really, that kind of affects what you're feeling. And then for alchemy, oh wait, also for astrology, there's still sound in space. Like, have you ever heard that there's no sound in space? It's a lie.
That is a lie.
So, again, sound can affect you physically. So, and then for alchemy, I guess a definition that I've kind of worked with is like arranging processes so that nature is sped up. So you're just, if you arrange things right, or I don't really want to say design, but if you just, because the design is already there, but if you just like set things up right, a natural process will happen faster, and then you can capitalize on that in different ways. And water is really important for this because it can actually like share similar geometries with sound and light, so it can transfer the information that way. And then for the Kabbalah, initially I learned about it just because it's a part of like mysticism from like Judaism, but again, that's not really true. And like the whole like Gnostic approach is kind of tied with that in alchemy, but I just learned that it's much older, and it kind of uses symbols like the tree of life, or I'm not sure if the other geometries like the seed of life, or I don't know. There's a bunch of different arrangements that are, I guess, marketed now as sacred geometries, and it's probably like some of the origins of like yoga, because it has to do with union and alignment. And I guess for what I want to learn about alchemy is, I guess, the timing of things. Already working with plants, and then different crops and different seasons, that that is already kind of an intro into the alchemic process. So I guess when you're making what you're making, I guess it'd be good to have a better understanding of the time frames, like when to do something, and and then for the Kabbalah, yeah, I was just interested in how the different, I guess, levels interact with each other, because I think it has to do with dimensions, like the different realities as you go uh, up and down in dimensions. Because what was it? Um, like dimensionality is a scale sometimes. Um, yeah, like if you go down to like an atomic level or below, it's like a geometrical thing. It's like a point structure versus these larger geometric structures. So I guess I was just interested in how the different levels relate to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you for sharing. That's definitely something that will be touched upon. We go on through this course. Definitely, I mean, the relationships between those spheres is important. So that's something that will be covered as well, because that is the um, idea of what they call path working, basically. So that is all. Everything that you said that you would like to learn is definitely going to be touched upon in this course. And of course, in relationship to the crops and the plant and the seasons, that is relative as well. Um, yeah. So thank you both for sharing. I think somebody else from the course just texted, but we're about to close the call, so I'm not going to tell her to get on the call. So now we're gonna do one more icebreaker, which is like my favorite icebreaker. I do this in all the courses I teach. It's basically 2 truths and 1 lie. So you're basically gonna write 3 things about yourself, and one of them is gonna be a lie, and then the other people have to guess which one is the lie. So take about 5 minutes to write your 2 truths and 1 lie, and then we will share that with each other and see which is the lie. Okay, everybody ready?
Yep.
All right. So who wants to start first with their 2 truths and 1 lie?
I can.
Okay.
So 2 truths and 1 lie. I was fat in middle school. I drive a sports car, and I like to be barefoot.
It's either you were fat in middle school or you drive a sports car.
Yeah.
Wait, you say yeah to both of them?
No.
But it's one of those two. What's
Yeah.
your guess, Alexa?
That you drive a sports car. I'll go with that one for the lie.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't imagine you being fat though.
Yeah.
From what I recall, it's probably a stress thing.
Oh, okay.
Mm. But then I hit my growth spurt too. So
True. That always.
Yeah. Word.
Okay. My 2 truths and a lie are I have Saturn in Sagittarius. My favorite fruit is mango. And I have Uranus in Gemini.
You have Uranus and Gemini is the lie. What about you, Drew? What do you think?
well, I was just thinking what what Jupiter was in before, but I guess it doesn't matter for her birth chart. But I'm gonna say that Jupiter changes more than Uranus.
Definitely does.
So Uranus.
So,
Okay. Yeah,
yeah.
that's the lie. I have both in Sagittarius, actually.
Word. That's what's up. Yeah, we have our Uranus return in 40 years. It takes like 40 years for Uranus to be back. That's when people have like their quote unquote like midlife crisis. It's like in the 40s or whatever. And that's usually around the time when we're experiencing a Uranus return. Yeah. So, word.
Didn't Uranus, or is Uranus, or has it changed signs recently, or it's about to?
Actually, I need to look into that. I'm not sure.
Is it you said how many years is it?
40.
Oh, okay. Because I thought it had, I heard that it recently changed signs, or it's about to, or something like that.
I know Lilith is moving into Sagittarius, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't know about Uranus. So let me see. Let's see.
Which one is the wounded healer?
Chiron.
Yeah. Didn't that change recently?
Yeah, Chiron did move into Sag also, if I'm not mistaken. Or was it into Sag? But it did.
I thought it was Aries.
Oh, Aries. That's what it was. I knew it was a fire sign. It did transit though. So, yeah. Word. So my 2 truths and 1 lie. I went to Catholic school from kindergarten to 6th grade. Yesterday was my eldest brother's birthday, and I used to have a cat named Claretta who was rescued from a fire.
Your brother's birthday.
That's the lie?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think. Wait.
I'm gonna go with the cat.
Well, those are actually both true.
Aw.
I did go to Catholic school, but it was not from kindergarten to 6th grade. I went there from kindergarten to 4th grade. 4th grade was my last year, and then I went to public school after that. But yes, yesterday was my brother's birthday, and I did have a cat named Claretta who was rescued from a fire. My dad rescued her from a fire. So,
Nice.
yep. And I always thought, I used to swear she was born on my birthday. Like, I swore she was born on my birthday. I don't know why I thought that my whole life. I still be telling people that she was born on my birthday. But maybe she was, and I just kind of intuitively guessed it. That happens a lot too. But yeah, that is a truth. And my brother's birthday is the truth too. But yeah, yesterday was Monday. So, word. Well, that is that, and definitely gonna be getting more into depth. I'm gonna finish uploading stuff. The detox meditation PowerPoint is up, so look through that. Because I'm gonna be talking more about the detox in the group chat, just to make sure that other people are on board with doing a detox, a week of detox at least. And it's very clearly drawn out how to go about doing the detox. And as always, guidance and support is offered. So feel free to contact me if anything comes up regarding the call, regarding the PowerPoint, or regarding any of the other content that's going to be up on Moodle. What else? I don't think I have anything else to say. But if you have any questions now, feel free to ask. But besides that, that's it for today.
No questions here.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you have a lovely rest of your evening, and we will speak soon for sure.
Awesome. Have a good night.
Have a good night.